The Donkey Kong Bananaza Direct just happened, and I have a few thoughts. First, DK was the game that motivated me to buy a Switch 2 at launch, and this trailer only made that decision seem wise. The game looks like another fun adventure by Nintendo, but I have some concerns. You see, Nintendo has done this every time they announce one of their games. They drop an amazing trailer that will entice anyone that's been with Nintendo for years or even newcomers, but as of late, they've been quite misleading. Just recently, Mario Kart World was pushed as an evolution to the series, and thanks to the trailer, the new open world aspect of the game, and even some of the things that the developers said behind the scenes, I thought that that's exactly what we'll be getting. But I quickly realized that the world part of Mario Kart World is really a side dish to the main dish, which is just the same old circuit racing and of course the knockout tour, which is just a derivative of a circuit race. Despite my disappointment in thinking that Mario Kart World would be a change for the series, it is still a good game, but ever since Breath of the Wild, Nintendo has been building off the lessons learned from that game. There's a lot of Zelda in practically every Nintendo game that the main teams work on, including Donkey Kong. Bananza has DK and Pauline traveling underneath the world, similar to how Tears of the Kingdom had the depths. The destruction reminds me of the many destructible objects in Zelda, but now to a greater degree. Ancient ruins are just shrines again. In fact, they're so similar, they have puzzle and combat ruins, similar to how there are puzzle and combat shrines in Zelda. Banandium gems can be found all throughout the world and by completing ruins. Banandium gems double as moons from Mario Odyssey and lights of blessings from Tears of the Kingdom. DK can level up his health and skills after he has collected a certain amount, and I'm sure you guys can guess where this came from. Nintendo reusing concepts from other games isn't my issue. It's actually a very common practice that a lot of gamers deem as lazy, but it's just smart business. Not only that, anything that worked in a previous game that can apply to a new project will only cut down development time. So honestly, it's only benefiting us that they reuse things that they can use for a new project. But to be honest, Nintendo has been doing this so much that it's become on the nose, and it kind of zaps any of the sense of newness out of DK because I can see so many things from Zelda and Mario Odyssey in it. We haven't had a brand new 3D adventure from DK since the N64, and I can understand somebody out there feeling like this game isn't all that special anymore with all the comparisons that could be made between it and Zelda and Mario Odyssey. My personal concern is that I don't feel Nintendo has fully learned from the mistakes that they made with Zelda, as they have been repeatedly making them ever since Breath of the Wild. Let's start with something light, the story. Nintendo is pushing DK to be more story focused than, say, Mario Odyssey. Zelda teased an evolution in storytelling with voice acting only for both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to fall flat in my opinion. Using lore and nostalgia to draw in old fans only to learn it meant absolutely nothing. When I see DK, Cranky Kong, and a young Pauline, my many years of absorbing Nintendo's worlds and stories begin to activate. Why is Pauline a kid? Is this Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong a new generation, or are they the original ones that I grew up with? Is this game a prequel to the original Donkey Kong in the arcades? Or could it be a prequel to Mario Odyssey's Donkey Kong and Pauline, as Donkey Kong was mentioned but not shown in that game? Nintendo knows its audience well. They know we would have asked these questions, but if they're just going to deliberately drop the ball but bait in people who care about this stuff, I find that to be a bad practice that after a while will cause people to not trust Nintendo when it comes to storytelling. With Zelda, they knew we would care because Zelda has always been about its story. Yet, they found it strange in interviews when fans were upset that the stories didn't make sense, and every time you saw anything from the past game, it was simply just used to nostalgia bait us. Seeing DK's version of Mario 64's Face minigame is another example of them using nostalgia, so they know what they're doing when they do stuff like this. They know it triggers a lot of our inner child and our fandom. I just hope they don't hype us up with the mystery behind what happened to Pauline and the Void Company, the villains of this Donkey Kong game. From a gameplay perspective, of course, it looks promising. Nintendo failed twice with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to me personally. Creating big open world games with tons of things to do, survival mechanics, and the freedom to go where you want, when you want, is a cool concept. My issue was the challenge. Nintendo was afraid of their own design. Because you can go anywhere, they made every region, shrine, and dungeon easy to combat their own choice of removing restrictions on progression. Because of this, Zelda starts off challenging on the Great Plateau or in the Sky Islands, then the games become extremely easy and boring once you get a few upgrades. A lot of the content in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is busy work, and that's something I really hope doesn't happen in DK. Mario Odyssey had the same issue where many moons were practically given away to you. Nintendo has been focusing on quantity and not quality as of late. It's understandable as the price of games have risen, and the expectation for more playtime could be why Nintendo is trying to give us so much, but it's been mostly forgettable content. Modern Zelda and Odyssey are mostly a blur to me, as they both had very few memorable moments. I remember spending hours in both of them, but nothing comes to mind as a highlight, and anything that does, it's very few and far between. Now, to be fair to Nintendo, we could say that they have gotten better at this new formula if we look at two games, Echoes of Wisdom and Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury kept some of the collectathon mechanics that they introduced in Odyssey. Side note, Mario Odyssey is the only collectathon Mario game. Just want to put that out there. But brings back fun and challenging platforming that Mario is known for. Bowser's Fury, unlike Mario Odyssey, was never too easy, and it even got more difficult as you got closer to the end. Bowser's Fury was able to mix in Nintendo's new design philosophy without sacrificing quality moments. Odyssey also sacrificed Mario's platforming abilities as they just made every platforming challenge really easy, and Bowser's Fury took us back to the basics. Echoes of Wisdom kept the freedom that Nintendo pushed in their Wild series of Zelda games, but they didn't make the game a brain-dead experience. You had many ways to solve a puzzle, and due to the restrictions of summoning throughout the game, I always had to think my way through to the end. A lot of people think gamers like me simply want the old Nintendo back. I really don't like this sentiment because that's not entirely true. I just feel like Nintendo has to iron out the wrinkles of their new direction. And unfortunately, I can't say for sure DK will go in the direction that I like. And this isn't even a selfish request either, as new Nintendo fans that may love Odyssey or Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom, once they played Bowser's Fury, they've admitted that that game was a lot better than Odyssey. A lot of people feel Echoes of Wisdom is a lot better, or they can take some of the restrictions they brought in Echoes and bring it to 3D Zelda. So it seems like what I like is what you like. So for anyone that thinks I'm just being biased, I don't think that's the case, because if you like what I like, then we're on the same page anyway. Donkey Kong 64 was a collectathon, so this game being one as well is what I expect. I'm not expecting deep platforming like Mario, but it is important to remember what a collectathon is, because Nintendo clearly didn't know what it was in Mario Odyssey. The collectathon genre has always blended in light platforming, puzzles, set pieces, and gimmicks. One of my biggest complaints with Mario Odyssey, which were the very simplistic moves that you had to ground pound or sit on a bench to get, I hope it's far away in DK. I don't want to see any of that in Donkey Kong. But the cool thing is that because Donkey Kong has this physics-based destruction that seems to be baked into damn near everything in the world, I think placing simple bananas like they had the simple moons on the bench and whatnot would work better in this game, because destroying everything could just be fun in itself. Sitting on a bench or doing all that other stuff in Mario Odyssey was just not fun. But if all they want me to do is destroy a wall to get to a banana, that might still be fun enough to get away with. Just don't do it too much. Now, the destruction could also be a double-edged sword, as you could end up breaking your way around a curated experience. Now, Nintendo could do what they did with Zelda and add in some restrictions, like how in shrines you can't climb the walls. But will they do that? We will have to wait and see. I like the ideas shown in Donkey Kong Bananaza. Transforming into animals is a nice way to bring animal companions back in, and it's kind of similar to how you transformed into them in Donkey Kong Country 2. When I look at all the destruction in Donkey Kong Bananza, and he can even level up, this almost reminds me of Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which was one of my favorite games at the time. Especially when I see him hurl giant boulders at enemies, this just reminds me so much of Hulk. Now, I don't expect Donkey Kong to be hard, because like I said, this still is a collectathon and those games have never been known to be hard, but I just hope leveling up Donkey Kong does not make the game like super easy. If anything, I might restrict my own self and just don't level up his health bar, just to keep the challenge if need be. The ruins are challenge rooms that I hope lean more into the Mario Sunshine challenge rooms without FLUDD. I want these areas to be where Nintendo gets really creative, and it seems like they are. Like, I see some things that remind me of the red girders from the original Donkey Kong arcade, and I see a few puzzles. I just want them to go crazy. I want these rooms to be basically their own dimension, like in Mario Sunshine, where they just can do whatever they feel like. And please allow them to be challenging. Now, I would say that it's guaranteed that it would be, because unlike Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, this seems to be a level-based game. And because it's a level-based game, you can make an argument as you progress through the game, they expect you to be more prepared for harder challenges. But Mario Odyssey didn't work that way. It was a level-based game, and the game was basically the same challenge all throughout the entire experience. So I hope the overall game maintains a level of challenge, but especially when it comes to these ruins, because if they begin to repeat, which they might repeat like the shrines did, but they're still the same difficulty, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Repeated content, but making it harder actually works. But repeated content is the same difficulty. It just feels like doing the same thing over and over again. Now, I might lose some Nintendo fans when I say this, but please just chill out for a minute and just hear me all the way through. I hope Nintendo looked really hard and good at Astro Bot. I know Astro Bot was heavily influenced by Nintendo. They've said it 1,000 times, and anyone that played it knows that it was influenced by Nintendo, but not Nintendo of today, Nintendo of yesteryear that trusted their players with some level of difficulty. Now, moving on to Pauline. She seems to be bringing in a musical element to the game, and Nintendo is well known for their great music. I would like to see Nintendo mix music into gameplay like they used to do with Zelda. In fact, a great example of this would be Sackboy's Adventure. That is a great game that is on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and they have whole stages where the whole stage is like a rhythm game. I wish I could play the music, but it's licensed tracks, and that would just get my content flagged. But if you ever play the game, you know what I'm talking about. It turns a platform into a rhythm game. I'm not saying Nintendo has to do something like that, but it would be nice to see Nintendo blend in music with its gameplay. DK is about a month away, and I hope my worries are for nothing. I didn't like Mario Odyssey nor the WoW series that much, but I wouldn't say they were bad games, just extremely average. For Nintendo, that's below their normal high quality that made me a supporter since I was a kid. This is Donkey Kong's second big 3D adventure, and I really wanted to not only be a great game for me, but everyone involved. Especially for those Donkey Kong 64 fans that's been dreaming of a game like this. Donkey Kong is in a perfect position to be a strong second to Mario, and I'm sure Nintendo would love nothing more for this game to be just as well received as a Mario game, and seeing as the only game we have out right now is Mario Kart World, and that game is already going to do numbers. Everyone loves Mario Kart. This game is needed for those people who aren't really into Mario Kart like myself. We want more of Nintendo's franchises to get a chance at the big leagues, and if this game is successful, maybe we'll get that Star Fox return. Maybe we'll even get a Chibi Robo again. I know that's wishful thinking, but who knows? And if this is successful, maybe we get a Kid Icarus, maybe even Custom Robo. I know this is a far-fetched thing, but the success of this game could inspire Nintendo to go back to other franchises and bring them back from the dead. Donkey Kong making 2D platformers is something that they've been consistently doing, but going 3D is a statement, and this has to succeed, and I just don't want Nintendo to mess it up. Thank you all for listening to my video. I know this video might be a little controversial because sometimes Nintendo fans, or just fans in general, kind of get a little touchy when you're criticizing something, but that's not my goal. I just want to express my concerns. I hope DK is going to be a successful game. I know it's going to make money because it's Donkey Kong, but I just hope that it turns out to be as big as Nintendo's mainline franchises that they've been constantly putting out, like your Zeldas and your Marios. We haven't had a 3D Donkey Kong in years. 2D Donkey Kong, to me, has been killing Mario side-scrollers for a long time. Since Donkey Kong Country returns on the Wii, Donkey Kong, even though it's only been 2 of them, those have been better than most 2D Mario games. And I'll even go out the far as to say it's still better than Mario Wonder. And I think that's a big improvement for 2D Mario. So maybe Donkey Kong might be the game to make Mario go back to its roots, but we shall see. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Peace out. God bless. Like, comment, subscribe. Put your concerns with Donkey Kong below. Put your hype for Donkey Kong below. Peace out. Keep gaming.